Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live Chino's Arsenal. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, get in the chat. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling ahead of Arsenal's match at home at the Emirates against Everton. I am having a great Friday. I love Fridays. It's just, we're getting into the footy. I would love for there to be a Friday game on right now because I'm really feeling the energy. But we're not getting one. So, but yeah, I'm excited a little bit about the Everton game because I feel like, you know, it's an opportunity to have a fun game. um, an opportunity to score loads of goals, create a lot of chances, and hopefully maintain the form that we're on. Outside of the Fulham game, our form is really good. It's like 5 wins and 1 draw or something like that. So let's maintain that vibe and hopefully we get to see more of Winieri and MLS. And yeah, just maintain the vibes because I feel like there's no reason not to. Um, I want to talk about who's available and who's not. Arteta also hinted at a quiet January, which, you know, shouldn't be that surprising. I think Dan Pot said it best. The January transfer window for Arsenal fans is just January. And Jason Ayto, was Edu's second or his partner or second in charge or whatever, is probably going to replace him. And I'll tell you why. And why I'm not particularly excited about that news. So, yeah. But make sure you guys are, in the chat and all that kind of stuff. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling. It's Friday. You ain't got no job. You ain't got shit to do. No, I'm just joking. But I'm happy to share, a little bit of time with you guys on Friday. And tomorrow I will be doing a watch along for the Everton game on Big Up. And then we'll do our player ratings, match reaction on here. So yeah, Pelza says we're going to end up signing an attacker for 10 million or something like that. Simba says, just have you seen the Alphonso Davies rumors? I have not. And AXZ says sign Omar Marmoush this January. I think, there's always there's always good players around that we could look at, but I don't really feel like you can just buy anybody in January. I think the reason why January is such a difficult window is because players that are actually probably worth something are not going to leave their clubs in January. And even if you're not a title challenging team in whatever league you're in, whether that's in the Premier League or the Bundesliga or League One or whatever, every team has goals and things that they want to achieve. And so just because a player may not be playing for a top team doesn't mean that they're not valued at the team that they're at now. And there's no rush for these teams to sell their quality players in January, knowing that there's going to be a line of teams wanting them in the summer. So why not keep your player, your really good player like Marmoush, do whatever you need to do in this season and try to reach your goals with one of your best players and then sell. What is the motivation to sell your best player in January? There is none. And so I think we're a little bit unrealistic when it comes to the January windows. Does that mean that there's no one? No, of course not. There's always players available. There's always opportunities. But that doesn't mean that you're going to walk up to Newcastle and take Isak, So I think we have to be realistic about what can be done in January. Does that mean that Arsenal should do nothing? No. Should they search for young players that are probably on the outskirts of their first 11? Should they look for, players that are out of favor, that are talented? Yeah, they should look for those opportunities. But the idea that you're just going to walk up to any team and just slap the money down, which just slap the money down and just take the player, very unlikely, So those Marmoush signings, those, Isak signings, those are not going to happen. Like those are not going to happen in January. But this is why you need a good sporting director. You need somebody who can identify talent and also has relationships with clubs so that you can go in there and find somebody in January, right? These Alphonso Davies rumors, I don't know. I haven't seen them. I want to say he's close to signing a new deal with Bayern, is he not? So, um, you know, I don't see him leaving there. Arsenal have entered the race alongside Manchester United and Real Madrid and Liverpool into the free signing of Alphonso Davies this summer. It's interesting. Um, I mean, they have Chelsea on here too. Chelsea, Madrid, Arsenal, all of them, everybody they've put on here. And it's from a decent source. It's from The Athletic. So I'm pretty sure that there's some legs to it. Of course, we should be in the running for somebody like this. It would be really nice to simplify the system next season with players that just do their job and you know what I mean? Like get a left back that can just left back. You know what I mean? But there's so many clubs that are interested that I wouldn't put too much stock in this, because there's also a lot of teams that are listed there that will offer him better wages, and on a free signing, that's what they're in for. He's gonna want like 300,000 pounds a week. You see us offering that to Davies over a Manchester United who are desperate for a left back, over a Chelsea that will buy anybody that's available or bring in somebody that's available. So, yeah. But should we be looking for a player like this? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Like we need variety, and I would love for our system to be much more simplified next season. I would love for the role that our left back is playing now to be played by a midfielder, meaning the player that we need to unlock teams, and a player that's going to get on the half turn and unlock the left hand side, the player that's going to be, pretty much conducting the midfield and all that kind of stuff. I would love for that to be a midfielder and not a left back, because it's just adding too many problems. And um, I do think that the constant injuries at left back is probably because a lot of those players are doing maybe too much. So yeah, I would love for us to look at a player like this, like Davies, but with all the names interested, I'm gonna probably just put that to the back of my mind. Kwame says, "Hi Jess, we must beat Everton on Saturday so that we can put pressure on Liverpool." I mean, that was the job last weekend, and it's the job this weekend. We need to keep trying to push, as far as we can, and every game is a must-win game now. We have no room for error because we've had a lot of errors already. So, yeah, I mean, Everton should be a banker, but I think, you know, there's always a feeling that we may make a mistake against these types of teams. So, let's see how it goes. But Everton don't tend to come to the Emirates and get anything historically. I think we do bad at Goodison Park, but when they come to the Emirates, they usually do get slapped, or we beat them. So you should feel confident, but you just never know with this team. Um, you know, Giovanni says, "How would you feel about our corner boys? Wait, how would you feel about our corner boys getting it done on set pieces?" You know, a win is a win. So if we win and it's just corners, I feel like that's fine. Like when it was like that against Manchester United, I was like, we won. So, but I do feel like off of that Monaco game, I do want to see us play a better brand of football and create more chances from open play. If we just happen to score from set pieces, that'd be great. But if we just only have set piece chances, I do think that we'll talk about it after the game. But, if we score on set pieces and we play well, it is what it is, So, yeah, Simba says Jason Ayto is so uninspiring. Richo says, "Good evening, Jess. Prediction is 6-1 to the Arsenal." I know you're an Everton fan, so yeah, you're probably not as enthusiastic about the game, but we'll see how it pans out. Burmy says apparently Gabriel is back. He did return to training, which is good. I think Kivior has done really well in the 3 games that he's played. Not so amazing against Fulham, and obviously the goal comes from his side. And I do think that he was pretty culpable when you look at the 3 players that were involved in the goal that Fulham scored: Saliba, Raya, and Kivior. I do think Kivior had no clue where Raul Jimenez was, and so that presented issues. And So if I had to split it, it would be like 50% Kiwi, 30% Saliba, and 20% Raya, like that. Like they were all kind of involved, but I think Kiwior not knowing where Raul Jimenez was, like Gabriel would have known where he was. So besides that, though, I think done really well. I think if you say that he had a great game against Monaco, a great game against Man United, and maybe not so great game against Fulham, when, to be honest, even with that goal scored, we should have beat them. Kiwior has shown to be a decent squad player that you can rely upon when Gabriel's not there. Obviously, you don't want Kiwior playing in our most important game of the season, but it's important for us not to have to rush Gabriel back, because word on the street is that it was a knee injury and not like anything from the head injury that happened against whoever that was. So I think not having to rush back Gabriel, not having to rush back Calafiori because Arteta decided to trust players instead is a much better way of getting your players back from injury safely than having them all strapped up trying to play at 50% because you don't trust Kiwior to play the odd game here and there. So, yeah, I'm happy that Gabriel is back, and hopefully he does start against Everton. I think he gives us something, and he's just our best left-sided center back. But well done, Kiwior. I don't think he can look back on this time and look at it fondly. I don't think that he, should look back and be like, damn, like I wasn't very good in that moment. I think he was pretty good for a player that doesn't get consistent game time. Graham says, shouldn't need to buy a left back. If you want a simple natural fullback, then look no further than Tierney. The problem is that Tierney is not anywhere near elite. And so if we're thinking about squad building and we're thinking about getting to the next level, as much as I like Tierney for the old style that we used to play and where we were when we were fighting for top four, or even just trying to get into Europe, I don't necessarily consider Tierney the type of left back that's going to take us to a Champions League final and win it. The type of left back that's going to help us win the Premier League. Would he be a decent squad player at this moment? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen him play in like eons. He was pretty much injured the majority of his time at Real Sociedad, and he's been injured ever since. So I think we have to be a little bit more realistic about like what kind of talent is needed in this team in order to take us to the heights we want to go to. And Tierney being that player is probably not it. And I'm not quite sure where the revisionism on Tierney is coming from, because even though we all like Tierney, he's a nice guy. He may be a good player, but like we need elite players. We need elite talent, top quality talent, and he's not there. So yeah, it's weird. But I think Tierney it's a good feel-good moment seeing him back in the squad, but it doesn't need to be any more than that. We don't have to push beyond that. Burmy says, hoping for another balanced midfield and left-hand side since Kala is out. Would like to see MLS at left back and Timber at right back. Partey can get a rest. I've been saying that. I really do think it'd be our best option to rest Partey because he's played a lot of minutes. I already spoke about this. Keep that midfield together that played against Monaco because they did a really good job. And, Marino opens up that left-hand side so much. And I do anticipate Trossard starting at left wing just because Everton are more likely to sit back. And so we're going to need more ball players, a little bit more creativity than running. And so maybe Martinelli will sit, Trossard will come in. But even with Trossard, you're going to want to have more angles. You're going to want to have more options on that side. And Marino opens up the pitch on that side for us. So, yeah, I like the idea of keeping that midfield together for Everton and playing MLS still at left wing or left back. I've seen lineups going around with Timber and Partey as fullbacks, and I just don't understand why Arsenal fans are like obsessed with playing Timber on that left-hand side. He's such a good player that he makes it work because he's fabulous. He is fantastic. He's so good that he's making you guys feel like his best position is left back, and it's not. It's right back. And so and even with Timber being a fabulous player, it closes off so many options and takes away our width to play with multiple players or even just one player on that side with a right foot. Nobody really does that. Nobody really has fullbacks on their wrong foot. Midfielders on the wrong foot, wingers on the wrong foot is much different than your fullbacks on the wrong foot. So if we don't have to, why would we? Why would we play Timber in his wrong position? For what reason are we still trying to push that? And our right hand side just looks so much better with him there. You get the overlap for Saka. Saka has more options. It just opens up the game so much more for us when Timber plays on the right and Marino plays on the left. It just opens up more opportunities. And we have a solution at left back with MLS. So why not, give him a little bit more playing time? What would be the reason, what would be the reason not to? So we don't need to break things apart. Once we get something that works, why are we trying to break it apart? We just watched like the nightmare that was Fulham, and people want to go back to that because they want their best players out there instead of players that actually work together, which is like the whole reason why we play like crap sometimes is because players just don't work together. There's no chemistry out there. So why would we continue to do it? I don't really get it. The Sasky Gooner says, "What's up, Jacinho? Did Kivior, MLS, and Marino appearances make for giving them starts tomorrow?" I don't I don't even know if it's just, they're the way that they played against Monaco. I just feel like, you know, not I don't think it's like I wouldn't just start them in those positions because they played well. I would start Marino and MLS because it's the first time that we've seen a functional left half space in over a year. You get me? Like, when's the last time we've seen a functional left-hand side for Arsenal? It's been almost a year, if not more than that. So why would we break that apart? So of course, like their performances were good, but I'm just tired of watching a left half space that looks like shit. And guys, that was the first time that we've seen those rotations since Xhaka's been here. You know how wild that is? Xhaka left a long time ago. So yeah, it's not even just about obviously you want to give people more playing time when they play well, but I just think like in general, especially when it comes to like Marino and MLS, that they should play because they offered us a functional left half space. Now, if Calafiori was available, then I would say Calafiori would start, you know, because Calafiori is probably the player that we would anticipate starting and all that kind of stuff. So if Calafiori was like ready to go and all that kind of stuff, and he was being, he'd already been eased back in, then yeah, Calafiori, because he also offers us that left half space. But I just think, yeah, Kivior doesn't keep his spot over Gabriel. There's not anything that Kivior could do. There's no kind of game that he could play that would keep his spot. But the other two, I just don't want to go back to what we were, that whole left-hand side being non-usable. I just don't want to go back to it. I wish I had the numbers or the chart, like a difference in what we look like against Monaco in terms of our attacking on either side versus Fulham, because against Fulham, 50% of our attack was going down the right-hand side. And it was like the whole other side was like not usable. So yeah, Tabuki says, I would like to see the same lineup versus Everton, but swap Partey for Timber. Kwame says, Arteta is so stubborn that Partey isn't a fullback, but a midfielder. Yeah, I think Arteta likes his, I think he wants to have his cake and eat it too. I think he wants Rice out there. He wants Marino out there. He wants Partey out there. He wants all his favorite people out there. So he'll forego the chemistry to keep all of his favorite people out there instead of just putting people on the bench. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not like those players will never play again, but we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping Arteta doesn't go back to that stodgy, because especially if you think about the way that Fulham just sat in a mid block and it was so hard for us to break them down. Everton are also going to play in a deeper block, whether it's a full-on deep block or a mid block, to keep us from being able to, pass through the lines and create chances and stuff like that. And so the last thing we want to do is go back to something that didn't work against Fulham, because Everton are going to be even more stubborn. So why would we go back to that? You know what I mean? Sam says, why does Arteta insist on playing people out of position? Declan should be DM, Timber should be right back, and even Skelly should be a midfielder, even though he's doing well at left back. I don't really, and here's the thing is, I don't really mind Miles Lewis Skelly being introduced into the team as a left back. I think it suits his progression into the team and doesn't make it so, uh, I think it makes it easier on him to take little small bites into the team rather than just like immersing him into midfield and saying like, okay, so help us build up, help us do, just give him like bite-sized pieces. Now, do I anticipate or want MLS to eventually become like a midfielder long term? Yeah, because that's his position. But I'm actually okay with him being introduced in there. What I think I don't like is when Arteta basically buys players that he knows are something and thinks he can coach them into something else. And when it's unsuccessful, he still continues. So MLS is a little bit different because he's a young player. So just like introduce him into left back, it's like fine. To me, as long as long term he goes into midfield. But like buying Kivior as a left-sided center back in a 3-back system most of the time and trying to convert him into a left back. And then when it's not working, doubling down on it and continuing is what I don't like, you know? So he just, I don't know. I think Arteta has this thing where he backs himself to coach anybody into anything. Like he feels like he can coach Kai Havertz into being this left center mid, this floating left center mid. And it just didn't work because that's just not who he is, and in a more simplified role as a center forward suits him so much more. He bought Declan Rice and was going to make him into this, half 8, half 6, bombing on, weird hybrid role when in reality he's probably just a DM. So I don't know why he does it, but I would just prefer him to just buy players that do the thing that he wants them to do and stop trying to coach players into things that they're not. I'd rather you make whatever they do, like Declan Rice is really, really good at winning the ball back. Put him in a position where that one thing that he does can be utilized even more, or coach him into, like Odegaard, instead of trying to make him into a goal scorer, which I don't think he's a goal scorer. I think Odegaard can score more goals. There's a difference between being a goal scorer and somebody that can score more if he's in better positions. But instead of trying to make him into KDB, allow him to be the pass before the pass. Put him in positions where he can do that at a higher level and at a higher volume, where we want Odegaard to be in those little pockets, finding the passes into Trossard where he can slide it across to Saka, or find that little pocket where he can slide it into Saka so he can hit it across the box, or, where he can score a goal. Do that instead of trying to make him into KDB and he's struggling to do it. Just buy someone that's more of a goal scorer. I would love for him to just simplify just a little bit more. And some of these guys are just not going to be able to reach those levels, not because they're not great players, but because the players have limitations. Remy says, as much as Sterling was a panic loan and he hasn't performed for AFC, I think he should get more minutes to prepare for the second half of the season. The squad players will be needed across all comps. The fact that Raheem Sterling is not getting like any playing time makes me think that Arteta is not happy with him, meaning like once he says that whole like I need to find you minutes thing, it's a worry. It's a worry. I feel like whenever he says that about somebody, he's trying to put the blame on him when in reality he just doesn't rate the player. He didn't really say he'll get chances or anything. He just says he needs to find the minutes for Sterling. So it's a worry. If it were me, I would just cancel the loan and maybe bring in someone else on loan that's closer to what we need. But if he wants him to be any sort of decent player for us, he needs playing time. So, and I don't know when and if he's going to give it to them. Boy says Sterling has looked more lively than Martinelli and Trossard for his cameos on the left. If you ask me, though the bar is low currently. I get what you're saying. I think when he plays on the left, he looks a lot better. When he plays on the right, and only Saka can play on the right. That role is built around him and for him. He's the only one that can play in that role. But the left-hand side has a little bit more wiggle room for different players to play there. And I do agree with you that Sterling has looked bright. Um, but you can't turn brightness into something tangible without playing time. But we're doing this merry-go-round of stinkathon with freaking Trossard and Martinelli. And I just feel like we need to bench both of them, just bench them. And then for the next 2 or 3 games, try to play different players in that position to get something else because left wing is a problem. It is. We don't get consistency. That player is not usually dangerous. They make the wrong decisions most of the time, and they're playing on fives and sixes every single game. Maybe the odd goal covers it up, but for the most part, we know we need more danger from that side. We need somebody that can create their own chances, somebody that can create more chaos and confusion, somebody that has a little bit more in their locker. And so I would love to see Arteta maybe use either Jesus or Sterling for multiple games in that position to see if you can latch on to some form. But he's locked in on Trossard and Martinelli, just boom, 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 just switching them off, switching them off, switching them off. And like it stinks. Like, I don't know, it just smells like, what is that smell? It's like not great. So Jordan Hill says Arteta is in control of that. No, in control of what? Pixel says we are so right-sided as a team, very right-sided. I showed that chart the other day, and we are we are a right-sided team. Against Monaco is the first time that I've seen us in a year attack primarily off of the left-hand side. Saka and Odegaard didn't really get into the game until about 30 minutes, but it wasn't like we weren't creating any chances. And that's what I'm saying about maintaining the balance will make us so much more of a dangerous team. You just have to maintain that balance in some way. He has to prioritize having a left footer on the left-hand side, if not in both left mid and left back, or at least one, right? So yeah, Big says Arteta's pressers indicate that he ain't interested in signing players during the January window. Serious questions need to be asked about his ambition by ex-Arsenal players. So yeah. In his presser, he said that one of Calafiori or Gabriel will be available, and that's most likely to be Gabriel. Calafiori is not ready yet. And so it's going to be Gabriel. And so hopefully he starts. He was also asked about the January transfer window, and he basically said that he's used to it being a quiet window. But if the injuries persist, maybe there'll be opportunities. And so all of that boils down to we're going to have a quiet January. And I wouldn't be surprised if anything comes in, it'll be a defender. I really don't think it'll be an attacker. And so we're in a precarious situation because I just feel like our last couple of windows have made me question whether or not we really want to win anything, or whether we're just, what are we waiting for? Like, what exactly are we waiting for? And so if nobody comes in, which I anticipate, this is the group he's going to have to go with. So he's going to have to use this group a lot better. He can't just have a dead Jesus, a dead Sterling, an inconsistent Havertz, an inconsistent Trossard, an inconsistent Martinelli, and just a Saka. He can't. And that's why I keep saying over and over again that if this is all you're going to have, I'm not going to give you, yeah, but he had Sterling and Jesus, because you are creating this situation because you are very much so involved in transfers and what happens in the transfer window. You choose to keep these players. You choose to get these players. You know what I mean? So it's like, if we give him all the credit, which Arteta does, he gets all the credit basically. Whenever something works out, Declan Rice, he was credited with Kai Havertz. Once Kai Havertz started working, people started saying, see, trust Mikel, he knows what he's doing. But when it's not going well, it's the board is letting him down. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either he's responsible or he's not. And so you're responsible for this team. This team is built in your image. You've had multiple windows to make sure that we didn't get to a place where we had this group of attackers in our third season of trying to win the Premier League. So if you don't get anything in January, which you basically are telling us, then you need to get more out of the group that you have, because I'm not hearing that, but we had Sterling. But Havertz is our striker. But Jesus isn't good enough. But Martinelli is not good enough. Because those are problems that could have been solved this past summer. Because again, just because you get Nico Williams doesn't mean that the only option is Sterling. Just like Chelsea, they wanted Nico Williams. They didn't get him. They went for Pedro Neto. We ended up with Sterling because I don't know why. I don't know why. So the quiet January doesn't surprise me. And really, without a sporting director in, I'm apprehensive about any work being done. I just want to see Saka and Saliba on new deals ASAP and Gabriel. And then we go into the summer window and try to untangle this mess and just buy good attacking players. And that is going to lead me into the Jason Ayto conversation, but I want to get some of your guys' comments. So let me get to the comment section. Burmese says Saka needs support. This should be addressed. If he gets injured, AFC is done, and he will need rest between now and the summer. Boy says Havertz is still better as a left center mid. If you ask me, most of his goals come when the team is in scoring form or Saka, Odegaard are on madness. Pixel says Martinelli needs a position change. Maybe he is a 9. You know what's interesting? I feel like everybody wants Martinelli to be moved into other positions, but we know that he can play better as an inside forward at Arsenal. I don't think he needs to be moved into the 9. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if Arteta can get the most out of a number 9 like a Martinelli because he struggled to do it with Aubameyang. His reaction to Aubameyang was not to use him through the middle and try to get him in goal scoring positions. It was to move Lacazette to center forward and to move Aubameyang to the wing. And so I think when you look at the type of striker that Arteta wants, I do think he likes his center forward to be more of a facilitator anyway. So I don't even know if he could figure out how to get a Martinelli type of striker going. Because another manager would use Martinelli as a striker. These are choices, but in Arteta's system, in Arteta's world, Martinelli is an inside forward. And I think Arteta needs to figure out a way to get Martinelli in better positions that suit him at inside forward than us trying to make up this scenario where he plays at the 9. And we all know that Arteta doesn't want a number 9 like that. And he probably can't figure out how to supply that type of striker with the chances. Because that type of striker is not going to help you in build up. That type of striker is not going to drop in. That type of striker needs to be able to get on the end of moves. And right now we create moves. Our striker creates moves for DMs and center midfielders and fullbacks rather than them being on the end of it. And so Arteta's his whole system would have to be different. And so I just think it would be easier for him to just figure out how to platform Martinelli at left wing better than us trying to force him into a position that Arteta's never going to put him in. He's tried it like once, and he never tried it again. Against Sporting, away from home, in the Europa League. That was the only time he's ever played him in that position. That's it. He'll probably never do it again. Just like when he decided that Emil could not play left wing for us. We know Emil could play left wing for us, but Arteta decided that that was not his position. So it's never going to happen, Abdallah says, big up, Jess. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well and all that. I am. I'm having a nice Friday, talking to y'all. So yeah, work is going good. Life is good. I can't complain. So yeah, Kwame says, I have my doubts about Dan Ashworth. We're probably not going to get Ashworth. Ashworth is probably not going to come to Arsenal. So remember when I told you guys yesterday, or if you guys were on Diluted Stream, I think I spoke about it actually. He said, well, we started talking about the sporting director thing, and a report had come out yesterday that Arsenal were looking at, or Dan Ashworth was being looked at by Everton. Arsenal were kind of interested in Olave, but Edu's number 2, Jason Ayto, has a good chance of getting the Arsenal DOF job. And that was an Alex Cook exclusive. And then the very next day, The Athletic comes out with a piece, Gunner Blog comes out with a piece talking about Jason Ayto. You know what that means. The Arsenal mouthpieces are, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Gunner blog, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but I think we could say confidently that he's an Arsenal mouthpiece, that they are starting to drip disappointment to us. Yesterday it was he has a good chance of getting the job. Today it's, you know, a piece on him. And the piece, basically like the headline is, when I talked to Jason, I felt, wow, there's something special with this guy. And that was a quote from Mikel Arteta when he was first asked in his presser about the sporting director. And he said, I'm going to be really involved in the decision for the sporting director. It has to be somebody that's going to cooperate and work with us and all this kind of stuff. And the name that he dropped, and the only name that he dropped, was Jason Ayto. And he said, wow, there's something special about this guy. He's the interim sporting director now and is in contention for the full-time role and will have a big say on January transfers. What I know about Jason Ayto is very, very limited, but he's been at the club for a while and has worked up the ranks. And one of my biggest concerns about Arsenal is that they're obsessed with hiring from within instead of getting the best person that, could be in this position. They're just always kind of, recycling the people within the job. Like, instead of hiring a CEO, Vinay, who was the head of sponsorships, got that job. And he has no experience in that position. And that's just what that's what we do. Everybody that's there has an opportunity to go up the ladder, whether they actually have what it takes to be in that position or not. And I just am like, to me, this just feels very ominous. Like, they're going to hire him and he doesn't have any sort of background or anything I can look at where it's like, this is your body of work, you know? But this is from the London Evening Standard. The Gunners have a track record of promoting from within, and the interim sporting director could be a candidate to take the job long term. Striding along the edge of the pitch at Stamford Bridge earlier this month, few people will have recognized Jason Ayto. Accompanied by Arsenal's executive vice chair, Tim Lewis, we had just been in the dressing room after Gunners' 1-1 draw against Chelsea. Arsenal's executive team often go to see manager Mikel Arteta and the players after games, but this was the first time that Ayto paid a visit after being made the club's interim sporting director. Edu was a hugely recognizable figure, thanks largely to his playing days, but little is known about Ayto. There's no trace of him on social media, and that includes LinkedIn, which can be a way for agents, those in recruitment, blah, 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 make contact. I don't care about that. Ayto, whatever, rise to Arsenal has been impressive, but his past fortnight must have felt like a whirlwind. The meeting was scheduled, blah, blah, blah. The process of finding the successor for Edu has been discussed, but in the interim, it will be him. The club trusts him in the role, and it is why they are not in a panic or rush to appoint someone new. Arsenal's aim right now is to decide what type of sporting director they want. He began scouting for Arsenal 10 years ago and first joined them as a video analyst. He rose up the ranks and became the club's chief scout and recruitment coordinator around the end of the 2020-2021 season. So essentially kind of around the time where they had gotten rid of all the scouts and they did that rejig of the recruitment department and all that kind of stuff. He kind of came in at that time after already being at Arsenal for 10 years and starting as a video analyst. And so there won't be any, this is what he's done at this club or anything like that to show whether or not he, we could actually look at it. He's just somebody that's worked at the club for a long time. And so this would be a very, to me, on paper, uninspiring. And if you've been at the club since, for 10 years and you've pretty much been in our recruitment department since 2020, 2021, And if you look at the amount of misses that we've had, some successes, so quite a few misses, then I'm kind of linking you to a recruitment standard that I feel like needs to go up significantly. And unless Edu was holding down your ceiling and you can just go far and beyond what he could give you just by him not being there, then I'm concerned that his number two, that was probably involved with some of the shit that we've seen, like Raheem Sterling ending up at the club, and not getting a good backup goalkeeper, ending up with somebody who's cup tied because we're fucking around in Spain trying to get a number two goalkeeper for the whole window when we need a striker. I'm already not liking you very much. Agents who have dealt with Ayto describe him as an ultra professional whose work ethic ensures no stone is left unturned. In one pitch, Arteta wowed a prospective signing when he recalled the exact minute from a match months ago that caught his eyes. It was one of the several clips Ayto and the recruitment staff had trawled through and put together when scouting a player. So this gives me the feeling that this is going to be somebody that's going to work underneath Mikel. He's going to exactly what I didn't want. Somebody, the position will basically be absorbed and Arteta will be running the recruitment essentially. And this person will be getting clips of the person and building up that big booklet to show players of, clips of them and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, this is going to be somebody who works with if or not underneath Mikel, not somebody who's going to challenge him, not somebody that's going to bring his own experiences and his own CV as a way to, be somebody in the, with authority. This is going to be somebody who just helps Mikel get the players that he wants. Those that worked with Ayto at Arsenal in the past describe him as firm but fair. He's fluent in Portuguese and can speak Spanish too. 39-year-old also has a growing contact book thanks to his promotions over the past few years. So, I mean, what are these connections? What connections could you possibly have? You're basically been a scout. Ayto has been involved in major deals over the past 18 months, while Arsenal's executive team also has plenty of experience from the likes of Garlick and Lewis and newly appointed sporting director of operations, James King, who started work last week. Given he has been at the club for 10 years, Ayto knows the recruitment model and those who work underneath him very well. James Ellis, Arsenal's head of recruitment, has been at the club since 2021. Mark Curtis, Ellis's number two, has been working for Arsenal since 2013, who has also risen through the ranks. They will feed into Ayto and have a good working relationship with him. Arsenal have a track record of promoting from within. And so, yeah, they're going to absorb this position and it's going to end up going to this guy with no track record really outside of the players that we've signed. So, yeah, I mean, if you like what we've done, then you'll be ecstatic about this. If you don't like what we've done, then you'll be concerned. So it's crazy. Pixel says, get us Eze and Bomo for depth. Jordan says, now I'm weird, laughing my ass off. PSG fans literally want Campos gone. Let's see. Just reading. I have to go back now because you guys have been talking a lot since I've been reading that. Let's see. And Goni says, external hires always stir shit up. Arsenal don't like that. Boy says, chat is real today. We smelling blood. Arsenal is going to feast. We need a sporting director who can sell players. That has been a big issue since the Wenger days. Vic says, we are friends in Family FC. I've even saw a rumor that we were looking at Murder Soccer and Rosicki as potential candidates. Anton Dunn says, another novice being hired. We're not going anywhere fast. Arsenal are a self-sustaining team. We ain't PSG. We cannot afford to pay big money for hyped up, unproven talent. We need someone who has unearthed gems like Ashworth, and Ashworth is that. Seda says it's very concerning that Arteta has this much power as a rookie. I'm not even surprised, just disappointed. I mean, his whole coaching staff outside of AirPod, are novices, young people. Now this Ayto guy is going to get the keys to our sporting, as sporting director. And there's just nothing other than what we've done that I can attribute to him. Because if he's Edu's number two, then he gets credit for all the stuff that happened this past window and the window prior. So it's kind of like this is somebody that's going to help Mikel get what he wants. And that means that there'll be more Kai Havertz signings, there'll be more Raheem Sterling signings. That's what I'm thinking. There needs to be a different voice in the room, somebody with external experience that can throw. I do want things to be stirred up. I want a different set of eyes in here that can give a different view of what Arsenal needs to look like, because so far, as much as we've gone up in the last 2 years, we've stagnated. And so it's strange that it's not strange because I knew that this is what they were going to do, but it's annoying. Because I'm just like, you have the opportunity to go to another level with a sporting director with more experience or a different set of eyes, and you choose more of the same. So nothing will change. Like, it'll be the exact same thing. This is Edu's number two. So you have to assume that he's going to do things pretty similarly. And because he's not a big figure and he's a smaller figure than Edu, he'll have even less say so, you know? Um, so yeah, it's tough, you know. I see a lot of Ashworth talk. We already went through that the other day. He has a long enough CV and tangible evidence of what he can do. And so it just depends how you weight things. If you weight his experience and what he's done at Brighton and Newcastle higher than the emails and him potentially wanting to sign Southgate, then you'll think Ashworth is a good sporting director. If all you can look at is the fact that he suggested Southgate, then you'll not want him, and so I think tangible evidence of what you've done versus a rumor about what you maybe would have done that never came to fruition is probably a little bit more important. But I can see that a lot of people are like, well, he would have done something, so maybe I wouldn't want him because I don't want Southgate at my club, which it is what it is, because we're not going to get him anyway. But when you looked at his track record from Brighton and Newcastle, I like being able to see tangible evidence of what you've done with the players and what you spent and what you sold them for and things like that, than somebody that we're just bringing, that somebody that's already there. So nothing is going to change, because we need change. We need change in recruitment. We need it badly, and we're not going to get it now. So it's just, they might as well just tell us that they're going to hire him. Because also I would not be surprised if they, signed or hired Renee Sleggers too, because she's doing so well with the women's team. But interim bounce is a real thing, and she's doing so well that instead of getting somebody that can actually compete with the likes of Chelsea and Man City, we're probably going to end up hiring Jonas's number two. Graham says our owners don't have high standards. They are only happy with CL money and the PR that it brings, not interested in winning trophies. We can see it, they see it as a side project to their American teams. Boy says Monaco been moving backwards ever since Campos left, though. Jordan says, I don't mind Ralph Ranić. Simba says, how is he going to negotiate deals? I don't know. But if he's so, I don't even think he's going to be negotiating. I think Richard Garlick does that. I think Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis do all the negotiating. They're the money guys. I think what his role will be is to do the scouting aspect of things, find the players that Arteta wants. And when we want to convince somebody to come, he'll help Arteta build the big fucking binder of pages to show the player to kind of get them to come here. So I think that's how it's going to be broken down, because Edu wasn't doing the negotiating per se. Once like Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis came in, they're the ones that work closely with the Cronkies and try to make sure that the books are balanced and all that kind of stuff. So, I feel like Edu really wasn't involved. Like at the end, like it was more, if you're not doing the negotiating and then Arteta and Inaki Kanya and this Jason Ayto guy are in the corner, thinking about the Spanish goalkeeper that they want to bring in, then what is your job? So it's crazy. Boy says Madrid signed a whole bevy of players to future-proof themselves while Campos was there. I mean, also, where is the Real Madrid scout that we got? What happened to him? Does he work for us or no? Because what is he doing? Jordan says Richard Garlick needs to go. Should have gone with Edu. They love him down. They love Richard because I feel like Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis work within the Cronkies budget. And so they kind of do what the Cronkies want. They Edu or the report that came out that said that we wouldn't have even gotten Calafiori had Real Madrid not come in because Arsenal wanted to make a big sale before they brought anybody else in, but they were forced to push that out earlier because Calafiori would be a Real Madrid player right now had we had not forced the issue because we would have lost out. We would have lost out on that target. We would have lost out on that target. So I think Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis, like they work within what the Cronkies want. They're trying to build this self-sustaining model and, they want to, it's like the Cronkies like them because they're money men. You know what I mean? Pixel says Olabi for me, get Isak and Zubamendi. Jordan says Zubamendi is not that good. He will get exposed in the Prem. Big says whoever signed off on that Havertz deal needs to be sacked along with Arteta, set us back big time by 2-3 years. Nonsensical pet project. Simba says don't sporting directors lay the groundwork with players, agents. How is that going to happen? Is Garlick going to do that? That's what I feel like, but that's what that little report just said that I read was that whatever player it was, I don't know who it was, if it was Calafiori or if it was Declan Rice, it was probably one of those two where they wanted to convince the player and then they brought that, all the videos and stuff of what they like about the player when they're trying to convince them. And Jason Ayto helped build up that whatever of the videos that showed what that player was really good at and stuff like that. And that's the groundwork. It's the players' agents knowing how they'll be utilizing the team, how they see them, blah, blah, blah. Richard Garlick and all of those, they're going to do the money shit. They're going to do the money part. But this person is, I guess, going to, basically pull all the things that you can see visibly about what makes this player what they are, the stats behind this player, the videos. Because remember, he started off as a video analyst, so this is somebody that's going to be able to talk about and show and be able to like explain who this player is from the playing standpoint. And so I think that's the groundwork that you're talking about. Outside of that, it's like, he's going to be basically helping Arteta get what he wants. Abdallah says, all you need is a superstar left wing and you're good. I mean, it could all be so simple, but knowing us, we'll go for another left back. Johnny says, yep, Calafiori would have already been pre-signed by Real Madrid by now. In the winter, the transfer would have been done, no doubt. Seda says, we're going to have to pray that he was held back by Edu and that his eye for talent is top notch. Exactly. Said is 100% correct here that the only thing that we have to look forward to if they hire him, which they're going to, is that Edu was holding him back so much that he goes up 1,000 levels because this PR piece is about him walking and nobody knows him and he doesn't have a LinkedIn. None of that matters to me. I want to see on paper who you brought in, what you brought them in for, and what you potentially sold them for. And we can't see any of that. You were just Edu's number 2. So you were involved with some of the shit that's gone on over the last couple of years. But the only thing that could make this make sense to me in terms of Arsenal getting to the next level is Edu was holding you down so badly that now that he's not there, you can get into your position and thrive. That is it. But if you're just Arteta's, yes man, and you're just getting the videos to show his players what they are and all that kind of stuff to convince him to come, we're in a lot of trouble. I'm telling you right now, we need so much better. We need a lot more talent in this team in certain positions. So yeah, Johnny says Havertz slander, mate. Jesus looks better than him. Bar finishing. I know you guys are talking about like Havertz slander. I've said this a million times. Just because like Havertz can play well as much as he wants. It's like him playing well is great because at this stage, you put him on the highest wages, and he was a huge signing that has to work because you didn't have to do it. It was very much so a needless signing that didn't solve any of our issues at striker or left center mid because we still need those two signings. We will still go into multiple windows looking at those players. At the back end of last season, they were saying that we're looking at Isak, and we're still looking at Isak. We're looking at João Pedro. We're looking at strikers still. So he didn't solve that problem, and we still went out and bought Marino. So he didn't solve that problem either. So because he doesn't solve any of our problems, he has to work out and has to do something. And for the most part, he has now that he's playing center forward. But he'll never be a signing where I'll look back and say that if I could get that 65 million back, I wouldn't use it in any other way. Because I would have. I would have used it in any other way. If I could get that 65 million back, I would. So him being good for us and working out is completely different to did we need to sign him? We didn't. We didn't. Like, we did not have to sign Kai Havertz. We did, and it worked out because Jesus was so bad that putting a midfielder up front was a better option. And he played well for that second half of the season. But we're still talking about a striker and a left center mid because he didn't solve either one of those issues. So it's a very separate conversation that just because he was a signing that I still don't feel like we should have made doesn't mean that I don't think that he's played well for us. That's all, you know? I don't know why it's such a hard concept. You know, it's not, to me, it's like, it's not about slandering Havertz because it's not even really about Havertz. It's about the signing, you know? Graham says the problem with Arsenal is that they are not scouting in the right places. They are players from clubs on the level of Villarreal, Lyon, Dortmund that would allow us to build a stronger squad. I mean, yeah, like you could, you know, you guys know, like I would take Alberto Moliero. I would take Alex Baena. I would take players like that from Las Palmas and Villarreal. They're talent. They're such talented players. If you like, you know, Leon, you'd probably take Shirky, you know. So there are talented players out there, but we just don't bring in those types of talents, like just very obvious talent. We get fillers. Like, to think about, like, we don't get a lot of players that raise the ceiling over the last couple of windows. I feel like we've gotten a lot of players that do the floor, and we still need ceiling raisers. You know, so Jorginho was like a floor signing, Marino's a floor signing, Trossard is a floor signing. Those are all floor signings. I feel like Calafiori lifts the ceiling at left back, but he hasn't played enough, maybe, you know, so we need some ceiling raisers. And you don't have to spend 100 million on ceiling raisers. You just have to get exceptionally talented players, and keep buying them. Keep buying them. Jordan says Magalhaes is a monster. Him picking up an injury is a miracle. I think he'll be back for the Everton game. Jordan says he did solve our issues. His movement unlocks space. Tell Arteta to stop playing dead football, and Havertz will look better. No, I mean, he didn't really solve our problems. I mean, if he had solved our problems, we wouldn't have went goalless in so many games that he played in, by the way. He played in games that we went goalless. So he didn't really solve our problems. Like, he made us a little bit better because Jesus wasn't playing well. So, you know, we're still looking for a striker, and the club is looking for a striker. It's not just Arsenal fans. The club are trying to identify a striker for the summer and have been trying for multiple summers. So I think if that were the case and he solved all of our problems, then why are we still looking for a striker? You know? Pixel says we only sign handsome players, not based on ability. Johnny says Havertz jury is still out. Let's say and settle this a bit. But I think we all agree Lewis Skelly is better than Zinni defensively, and so he should be our number one after Calafiori on the left. I just think he should play more. He should just play more. You know, he should play tomorrow. And there shouldn't really be any questions about it. We should not go back to Timber. We should just play him like he's shown it, you know? He's shown it. So yeah. Let's see. Johnny says Jesus makes the football look slightly undead though when he plays instead of Havertz equals not both in the same time because they both suck. I kind of get what you're saying. It's a different style, but it presents another issue. With Havertz, you're more likely to probably get a goal with less aesthetically pleasing football. But with Jesus, the football might be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but you're almost guaranteed not to score through the center at least, you know. So I think neither one really fills us with the joy, you know, that you would get if you just had a striker that kind of did it all kind of thing. But I kind of get what you're saying because Jesus offers more of a creative outlet. He gets into those triangles with Odegaard and Saka, and it's more fluid. You know, the assist that he put in for Saka, that was like really good movement and a really quick touch. So I get what you're saying about Jesus. It's just that he misses the two chances and you know that he did against Monaco, and Havertz probably misses one. And we probably need a striker that makes both, you know. So yeah, it's interesting. Abdallah says Alex Baena. People that know footy know that Alex Baena is the next one. He's up, like he's that guy. Like there's different types of attacking midfielders, but I think my eye loves that type of player. The way that he plays, the way that he passes the ball, the pass appreciation, all that kind of stuff. That's what I like in my attacking midfielder. I like somebody that can pick that pass. He reminds me of what Bruno Fernandes would be if he wasn't a piece of shit. Like he has all those types of attributes in terms of finding those passes and those, you know, he can pass long passes, short passes. Like he's an assister. He's not a goal scorer, but the guy just has it's just there. Like he's so good. Um I rate him very highly. And then you have players like Shirky who are more like they're attacking mids as well, but they're more of like the dribbly, fancy, finessey types, you know. So it depends on what you like. You know, Shirky is probably more exciting, but Baena just oozes like class. Like I love that type of player. I also love Alberto Moliero, who's probably more of an interior type of player. Like as his career develops, he probably won't play on the wing, but he just reminds me of like that Santi type of player, that Alexis-y type of player that just has like instant quality that you can see. He can go around you. He can hit the ball, strike through the ball. Like he knows how to score goals. Like he's a fabulous player too. Please watch Alberto Moliero and Alex Baena. Please, they're such good next up young Spanish players. Not a lot of people are talking about them, but they will. And if they end up in the Premier League, I hope they end up at Arsenal because those guys are so good. I love them down. But yeah, those players are great. But then also, you know, it's nothing stopping us from going to get a Lookman. Lookman is already ready to go. Really, really good left winger too. So there's a lot of talent out there that you're not gonna have to spend 100 million on. So yeah. Vic says, man said one of our best attacking players completely fumbled Rice Ping, and he's supposed to have one of the best touches and had a dead shot. That was his Fulham contribution. Jordan says Havertz can be upgraded. Saida says no one can convince me that the Havertz signing made sense. And even if Arteta was so adamant for him, the price we paid for him was ludicrous. We should have paid like 30 to 40 million for him. So he's not a $65 million pound player. But I kind of get I just even despite the price, the fee, I just still feel like if you still need the positions that he plays in, then he probably didn't necessarily really solve all of those problems. And he'd be a really good squad player, but the problem is you have a squad player that's going to be your highest earner. And that's the issue with the whole signing is that it makes it so that you have to force him into the 11. And I would love to see him on the bench, you know, being a squad player, but he'll probably never be a squad player because the wages he's on, which is wild. Diaz says, hey, Justin chat. Hello to you as well. Pixel says, Brian Zaragoza is deadly. I need to watch him because people keep mentioning him in the chat. Jordan says, man said Kubo. That guy is a dwarf. Honestly, though, like Kubo is a forward. Like, since when do forwards have to be tall? Like, since when? I don't think forwards need to be that tall, to be honest. You just need to be good. Natalie says, good evening. Johnny says, we got Saka. He scores all, and it's good if Jesus can unlock that left attacking side a bit. That can offer the right some scoring chances like in the Monaco game. Listen, as much as I think Jesus should be moved on, I think we're all kind of in that same boat now. That doesn't stop him from needing to be utilized in some way this season, because the idea that we can just have Saka and an inconsistent Havertz is like laughable. We need other players to look better than what they do now. And Martinelli can play better. Trossard can play better. We know Jesus can play better. All three of these players were in the 2022-2023 side that played so well. So even if you don't get that high version of them, what we're getting from them now is so below their level that you have to look at Mikel and say, can you not get more out of this team? Like, can you not get more out of this group? And so I get that there's like a desperation to back Kai and to hate Jesus, but the reality is that neither of them are good enough where it's like there shouldn't be any questions about them at all. You know, I don't think Havertz is so good that there's not an argument to be made that we could use Jesus in certain circumstances, like to rest Havertz or to unlock deep blocks or something like that. So nobody should be this coveted except for Saka. I think Saka and maybe Saliba are the only two players where there really isn't any sort of like conversation about their position, and there shouldn't be. Everyone else doesn't play consistently enough to and is not good enough to just have like these blanket like, well, we shouldn't be like, they're just so good, like we shouldn't even talk about it. You know, like, I'm so sorry, but they're not good enough for that. So as bad as Jesus is, I get it. Even this version of Jesus is way lower than what I expect for him. And I just think a little bit more playing time can get him into a decent level of form, because as an Arsenal fan, more than just hating a player, you should want players to get into form. Even if you don't like them, you should want them to play well for your club, because that is more likely to help us get to where we want to go. And I think we get stuck in this like, I don't like this player, so I don't want to see them ever, versus what can we do to get them in a decent level of form, because that's going to help us. Because you're not going to be able to run the same 12 players into the ground. You're just not. Like somebody said earlier, if Saka goes down, what we have may not even be good enough to get us into the top four. We might slide down even further. So as much as we don't like Jesus, we know we don't like Jesus. People don't like Trossard. People are hating on Martinelli. Those players need to at least go up a couple more percent and become usable squad players and gives us good performances, purple patches, you know, little runs of form. We cannot go with just Havertz, inconsistent, and Saka. You just can't, you know? So, yeah, Jordan says, get me Marmouche from Frankfurt or Alex Baena for the wings, Cunha or Jokeris for the striker, and Orkin Kochu for the left 8, and we cook differently. Kwame says, oh, you guys are talking to each other. Yes, Jess, it would be ideal if we could swap Havertz and Jesus for Jokeris, but I'm afraid the Prince would go up and not down. The price would go up and not down. They will ask for 100 million if we offer those two. Pixel says, Saka is limited, not Yamal like freestyle football. Yamal is natural. I don't really think Saka is limited. I think people like the aesthetics of Lamine Yamal better. I think aesthetics and limits are different. Limits to your game means that you just can't do certain things. And there's not a lot that I see that Lamine Yamal does. Like, people were giving him a lot of credit for that little in-swinger cross that he does. Saka does that all the time. It just doesn't look like a Spanish player is doing it. So I don't believe Saka is limited. In fact, I think he has one of the most well-rounded games as a winger. He's one of the most least limited players. What I think you're talking about is aesthetics. I think when you start saying things like he's a natural, like whatever, is that you like the way that he plays better. He's more fluid. He's more finesse. He's that kind of stuff. But I'm sorry, there's not much that Lamine Yamal can do that Saka cannot. It's just, it looks different because Saka is just, he's not Spanish. Like, I just feel like it's just that simple. Saying Saka is limited when he's probably the most well-rounded wingers in the world, I feel like is disingenuous, So yeah, I actually disagree with that. I just think aesthetically, Saka doesn't look like a Spanish player when he puts the pass through, but he can do all that shit. There's not any Saka, there's very little that Saka can't do. Very little. Um, so yeah, and Vic says like Saka is a Salah type player, efficient. Not saying he's comparable to Salah because he hasn't had the trophies, but if there were any Liverpool, and I think that they're very similar. Is people don't like the way that Salah looks, so they keep comparing him to people like Hazard, which he's clear of Hazard. Hazard looked good for 2 seasons, and he was like the type of like dribbly, low center of gravity type of player that people really like. But Salah is more efficient, but you wouldn't say that Salah is limited in his game. He's really good at penalties. He scores goals. He gets assists. He's fast. He can do all those things. So to me, that's not a limited game. That's an efficient game that doesn't have all the aesthetics that people like. I think, listen, Saka is just, to me, not limited at all. Johnny says Saka is explosive. Only thing I don't like is that he tries to cross too close to the keeper if he cuts to the exterior. And Stefan says, I agree just 100%. So yeah, I think we went through the Jason Ayto stuff. Let's see how that unfolds because I'm pretty sure they're going to hire him. Arteta did hint at a quiet January, and even though that's what I expected, then he needs to get better results out of what he has. And a good start for that would be to not go back to an imbalanced left half space and an unbalanced midfield and maintain those balances so that we can create more chances for unclinical forwards. And the more chances that they get, the more likely they are to get confident in front of goal because there's not going to just be that one chance. So they won't be tight. They'll know that another chance is coming so they can relax. Gabriel returned to training, most likely to start, but Calafiori is still not available, which for me means that MLS should start. My starting 11 for Everton would be Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and MLS. Same midfield as Monaco, and the front line, I would change the left wing to either Trossard or Jesus because I'm getting out and also play Havertz up front. I have a feeling that Everton are going to sit in, and so we're going to need more of a footballer on the left-handed side rather than a runner. And so I don't think Martinelli is going to help us in this game. I think you need somebody that has a little bit more of that ability to create in smaller spaces. So that's what I would go with. So yeah, Pixel says there was a time where this fan base was in love with Zinchenko. Yeah, there was. And it's coming back too, because I'm seeing a lot of people go back to it too. Kwame says Saka is phenomenal. He can lead us to a Champions League. Kahinde says injury prone. Calafiori is a ceiling raiser, you said. Yeah, he is. He is. But injury prone, somebody that's, gets injured, that doesn't have anything to do with their level of talent. And so when we play with Calafiori, and I think I have the numbers actually. Let me actually pull it up. What's that guy's name that had it? Give me a second. I have to figure out what is. Give me 1 second. But he actually had the numbers of how much it's very similar to like Odegaard and Saliba, that when this player plays, we actually win games a lot more than when we play with somebody else. So he is a ceiling raiser because his level of talent is Real Madrid levels of talent. Let's get that right. He would have been a Real Madrid player had we had not come in for him. So just because you're injury prone, which if you like, let's make sure that we keep it a buck. If you're injury prone, if you're saying if you're injury prone, you can't be a ceiling raiser, then a certain player that you always back cannot be one, right? So let's not use injury proneness as an excuse. Of course, Calafiori is a ceiling raiser because he's a much more talented player than Zinchenko and Tomiyasu. So yes, he is. I don't know why we're pretending like he's not, just because he's injury prone. Injury proneness never stopped you guys from liking other players, did it? You know what I mean? Let's see. Let me see if I can find it really quick while we're still talking, because our record without Calafiori is not good. Let's see if I can find it while you guys talk. I'm so hungry. I don't know why I get on here all the time and I just don't eat. I will find it. I don't think I saved it, but I did see it. Okay, so all right, so this is actually in regards to Martinelli. Martinelli, when he starts with Calafiori, in the 5 games that he started with Calafiori, he has 2 goals and 2 assists. Martinelli without Calafiori, he has 1 goal. So his influence on the team, meaning our left-hand side, and particularly a left winger that looked like he couldn't score a goal in his whole life before this, has infinitely better form with Calafiori. So, of course, he's a ceiling raiser. He's not a filler. He's not somebody that he's not on the Trossard, Jorginho, Marino level where we know that we need to upgrade on that position or they're not really maybe not a starter all the time. If Calafiori is fit, he starts. So it's not really like that. It's not, I don't know how you could say that he's not a ceiling raiser. I don't get it, So, but yeah, Johnny says, yeah, every time Calafiori played, we won or drew at City. I told people they overhype Odegaard and really underrate Calafiori. He is everywhere. He has 3 players in one. Well, Odegaard has been back since Chelsea, and we haven't lost a game since. So even if Odegaard's not playing at his best, which I don't think he's in the last couple of games, I don't think you can actually underrate his influence as well because we have been unbeaten since he's come back, even despite having bad form at some point. So yeah, Calafiori is also important, but that's because he's our best left back, and we know that that left back is really important to the system. Odegaard, those 2 center backs, the left back, those are so important to the system, and Saka. I would say those are the most important things. Those 2 center backs being who they are and how good they are, plus the left back, because that person has to come and basically connects the midfield to the front line, which is very strange because it shouldn't be like that, but it is. Odegaard, because once the ball gets to Odegaard, we actually try to attack. And then Saka, because he's our only good attacker or consistent attacker. Those are the keys to the system. And if any one of those are not there, we look not as good. So there you go. But yeah, guys, there's about 400 of you guys in here, which is amazing. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out. Everton tomorrow. I'll be doing a watch along on Big Up. So make sure you guys look out for that link. If you guys are following me on Twitter, Blue Sky, or whatever, I'll put it up there. The link for that, and on Instagram as well. Join tomorrow if you guys want to be a part of the watch along, and then I'll do player ratings and match reaction on YouTube after that. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'm going to go get something to eat. Make sure that you guys take care of yourselves and all that kind of stuff. I appreciate you guys being a part of the community and supporting my channel. There's been a lot of really cool and interesting things that have come to me in the last couple of weeks. And a lot of that just starts from this channel. So I never want you guys to feel like I don't appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys down. And also, a lot of times you guys are the highlight of my day because I don't talk to anybody really because I'm always by myself. If I don't talk to the dogs, I'm talking to you guys. So thank you guys so much for being such an important part of my life and my day. Hope you guys have a good weekend. If I don't see you guys for the player ratings or the watch along, and hopefully we're talking about an Arsenal win against Everton in the next show. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.